Coming up on Network Africa. Kenyan Parliament holds first session since William Ruto's election victory. The EU announces cash support for Mozambique's terrorism fight. Plus, France closes probe of army over Rwanda genocide. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Teniola Oyetayo. We begin in Kenya, where the country's parliament is sitting for the first time since the disputed general elections last month. Members of the two houses of parliament, the National Assembly and Senate, are being sworn in and will elect new speakers and deputy speakers. It comes just days after the country's Supreme Court upheld William Ruto's narrow victory in the presidential poll. After the result was challenged by his rival, Raila Odinga, the Kenya Kwanza coalition, led by Mr. Ruto, is vying for control of parliament against the One Kenya movement, led by outgoing President Uhuru Kenyatta. Neither of the two groups won a clear majority. We'll have more on the situation in Kenya much later. But moving on, the European Union has announced that it's providing additional support to the African military mission in Mozambique in the form of $15 million, which will go towards the Southern African Development Community mission to Mozambique. The EU says the money will go towards peace building and will focus on the capacity building of police and correctional service officers, women and youth empowerment, and dialogue with civic leaders tailored towards good governance and the rule of law. The EU said with this money it will join Mozambican and international efforts to restore peace, safety and security in the north of Mozambique. In concrete terms, this means SAMIM will receive camp fortifications and storage containers, medical equipment, vehicles and boats, as well as technological devices. Since 2017, northern Mozambique's gas-rich Cabo Delgado region has been plagued by armed violence, which some attacks claimed by the Islamic State extremist group. The insurgency led to a military response a year ago by SADC forces, liberating districts next to the gas projects, but leading to a new wave of attacks in other areas. The announcement comes as the High Representative of the EU for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy, Joseph Borrell, visits Mozambique. And the Islamic State group has said it killed 4 Christians, including an Italian nun, in an attack in Mozambique's northern Nampula province on Tuesday. It issued the claim the following day via its accounts on the messaging app Telegram in the name of its so-called Mozambican province branch. Mainstream media outlets reported on Wednesday that an 83-year-old Italian nun, identified as Sister Maria de Coppi, was shot dead by militants who raided the village of Japan in Memba district, where a Christian missionary is based. Several people were reportedly beheaded in the attack. The militants group boasted that its militants burned a church, 2 vehicles and other properties belonging to the missionary in the area. Prior to the attack, it had claimed its first and only attack in Nampula in June. Nampula lies to the south of Cabo Delgado province, where its activity is concentrated. The Mozambican president has confirmed the attack in the region. And French prosecutors have found no evidence that members of the French armed forces played a role in the Rwandan genocide in 1994. That's according to a statement from the French Public Prosecutor's Office, which said it had decided against reopening a case into the issue. France has struggled for decades with its role in failing to halt the killing by extremists from the Hutu majority of more than 800,000 Tutsis and moderate Hutus. The Hutu-led government of the French-speaking country had close relations with Paris at the time. An independent commission of historians in March 2021 absolved France of direct complicity but blamed it for failing to foresee the slaughter. It said in the report to President Emmanuel Macron that French officials at the time had been blinded by a colonial attitude and that the French government bore a serious and overwhelming responsibility. In May 2021, the French Prosecutor's Department concluded that there were no grounds to pursue legal claims that France bore responsibility for enabling the genocide. And to health matters, the WHO Regional Director for Africa, Dr. Matshidiso Moeti, says meningitis is taking an enormous toll on African countries, with COVID-19 threatening some of the extensive gains that have been made in the past. She says the COVID-19 pandemic has delayed vaccination campaigns targeting more than 50 million African children, raising the risk that these gains will be reversed.
The defeat of meningitis group A is one of Africa's biggest health success stories, with not a single case being reported on the continent in the past 5 years. Now, however, the COVID-19 pandemic has delayed vaccination campaigns targeting more than 50 million African children, raising the risk that these gains will be reversed. In addition, major outbreaks caused by meningitis group C have been recorded in 7 of the African sub-Saharan meningitis belt countries in the past 9 years. The most recent was a 4-month outbreak in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, which claimed more than 200 lives just last year. Pandemic-related disruptions saw meningitis prevention and control services slashed by half in 2020 when compared to 2019, followed by only a slight improvement last year. In 2010, it was strong political commitment that drove the deployment of the very effective vaccine Menafrivac that I referred to earlier. Africa's health ministers had issued a desperate plea following an outbreak 14 years earlier that infected more than 250,000 people, killing 25,000 in a matter of months. That vaccine has now reached more than 350 million people with significant results. In 2004, half of all meningitis patients lost their lives. Last year, 95% of them survived, clearly demonstrating the powerful public health impact of vaccines. Menafrivac specifically was developed through a unique partnership between WHO, the Gates Foundation, and PATH. It is a lesson to all of us of the swift progress that collaboration enables, and one we should remain mindful of as we tackle not only meningitis, but also other health threats like monkeypox.
And some more updates from the COVID-19 pandemic now. According to the World Health Organization Chief Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus, the number of weekly reported deaths by COVID-19 has dropped by more than 80% since February. But last week, one person died with the virus every 44 seconds. Dr. Ghebreyesus warns that the pandemic is not over and that the virus will not just fade away. In the WHO's weekly briefing, he also spoke about a new international instrument on pandemic prevention, preparedness and response, highlighting the second round of public hearings on the 29th and 30th of September.
I'd be tired of hearing me say the pandemic is not over, but I will keep saying it until it is. This virus will not just fade away. Pandemics threaten every single person on earth. So it's important that everyone can have their say on what this landmark international agreement looks like. To enable that to happen, WHO is holding public hearings to give as many people as possible the opportunity to have input into the negotiating process. We invite everyone, everywhere, to have their say by submitting a video statement between the 9th and 15th of September responding to this question. Based on your experience with the COVID-19 pandemic, what do you believe should be addressed at the international level to better protect against future pandemics? We look forward to receiving many suggestions and ideas from as many countries as possible.
These vaccines continue to work incredibly well against preventing severe disease and death. The vaccines that were developed on the ancestral strain, the original virus that was circulating, continue to work. So getting vaccinated, making sure you receive all of the doses that you have, remains critically important.
That's the prospect that mucosal vaccines bring. Not only an opportunity to reduce the severity of infection, but an opportunity to reduce onward transmission of the virus. And that may offer us a much stronger prospect for control of COVID in the long run. But that remains to be seen, because a lot of work needs to be done. We don't have access to that data yet, but we do look forward to that, and we encourage the kind of work that develops new innovative vaccines that allows us to go to the second and third generation of vaccines that we may need ultimately to deal with the end of COVID and to deal with future respiratory virus threats.
Still on health matters, a booster dose of a new malaria vaccine has maintained a high level of protection against the disease. And that's according to researchers, raising hopes that the cheap vaccine could be produced on a large scale in a few years. The new vaccine offers protection for 2 years and has been termed as a game changer in the fight against the deadly disease. The vaccine, developed by scientists at Oxford University, could represent a turning point in the fight against the disease. Well, let's head back to Kenya now. We have Kenyan journalist Abi Agina joining us on the program. Hello, Abi. Thank you so much for joining us on Network Africa.
Thank you for having me.
So it's been an interesting couple of, days and weeks in Kenyan politics, especially with the courts validating William Ruto's win this week. What reaction has that been getting in the country? Let's begin with that.
Well, Kenyans are slowly getting back to normal after the election wave subsided. As of this hour, we can report that the country is slowly adjusting to the grueling election. We've seen a number of developments happening, from parliament being constituted, where the members of parliament elect were able to congregate today, and continue the exercise of being sworn into office. We've also seen the senators also being sworn into office, and they have already elected speakers, both Senate, and as we speak right now, the vote counting is underway for the speaker position for the National Assembly. But the country is in a peaceful mood. Business is back to normal. The streets are busy and bustling with life, even as Kenyans get back to their day-to-day activities, for the simple reason that the Supreme Court, of course, pronounced itself and affirmed William Ruto's win as the president-elect for Kenya. So far, we can also indicate that the swearing in for the new president is also in top gear, which is expected to happen next week on Tuesday at the Kasarani Sports Stadium.
And yesterday, William Ruto tweeted that he had spoken to President Kenyatta for the first time since the election results. Do we know what they spoke about?
Well, the details remain very scanty, if you ask me, because both sides are saying they were able to have a tete-a-tete with President-elect Ruto, saying that he had a very good call with the outgoing president. And on the other side, we've also seen tweets from the exiting president saying that, yes, for a fact, they had a conversation just preparing for the swearing in and the handover of power come next week. But it is not very clear whether the outgoing president, of course, he's been accused by the president-elect that he did not congratulate him on his win. This is something that has, of course, rattled the supporter of William Ruto, who have been longing for the outgoing president to, of course, acknowledge his victory, and this has a big impact in terms of validating his ascendancy to power. So this is what we have been able to gather so far, and of course the president-elect was also on international media where he spoke extensively about the same.
And amid all this, as Ruto prepares to be sworn in next week, has there been any word from opposition Raila Odinga?
Well, the opposition has remained rather awfully quiet. We've not had much from them, apart from a few pictures that circulated where the outgoing president went to visit with Raila Odinga at his home. And in regards to their participation on national issues, the opposition has remained tight-lipped. Of course, today we did see an interesting walkout from the Senate, where senators walked out as the Senate elections were underway there in the Senate. So opposition remains very tight-lipped, and of course we've also seen some of the opposition leaders indicating that they are disappointed with the fact that some of the leaders who were elected under their political camp have decamped already to the ruling party, where they expressed their dissatisfaction with this move, calling on those leaders from those parties to actually stand their ground, because they were elected on a platform out of the party. So those are some of the major developments that we've seen. But on a grand scale, the opposition hasn't made its next steps known to Kenyans as of this moment.
All right, then, Abby, thank you so much for the update.
Thanks for having me.
And still to come on the program. British Ghanaian Gaming Collective offers safe haven for players of diversity. More in a moment. Please stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. Back here in Nigeria, 12 people have been confirmed dead from the floods in Jigawa State, taking the death toll to 63. Our correspondent, Sadiq Aliasu, reports that the Executive Secretary of State Emergency Management Agency, SEMA, is seeking more assistance from the federal government.
In the last 4 weeks, Jigawa has been experiencing flash floods in many parts of the state, in which 63 people are now known to have died, following 12 more deaths recorded in the last 24 hours. Many families are now homeless, with towns cut off owing to erosion and collapse of link bridges.
This road connects many towns and villages to Dutse, the Jigawa state capital. However, it is no longer accessible with vehicles after flood washed away part of the road. People here told us how they recovered 7 human corpses that drowned in Samir Tenega village.
They called us and told us that some people have drowned in their village. Since the water is passing through here, then we tried to intercept the corpses, and so far we're able to recover 7 bodies.
Livelihoods are also in danger. A farmer in Baranda, Rabilu Galadima, says his farm has been washed away, which means he may not have anything to feed his family through there.
The help we need from the government is food. Our farmlands have been destroyed. We don't have anything to eat now. But please, if the government wants to help us, they should do it directly. Because if they give it to someone to give us, it may not give the right people that have been affected.
Police Public Relations Officer in Jigawa State says the new casualties occurred in 3 local government areas.
There is one village called Agiani where 5 women, 4 women with a child, 7 months child, lost their life. during such incident of canoe capsize. And then there is one village in Martaba, that is Martaba village in Guaram local government. Also, 5 people drowned inside river or pond, and then they lost their life. Also, there is one case that is the first case in Sansani village in Niga local government. Also, 2 people lost their life.
According to authorities, 1,552 villages in 22 local governments have been affected by flooding in the last 2 months. Sadiq Ilyasu, Channels Television News.
And African ministers of finance, economy and the environment have met in Egypt this week ahead of the 2022 United Nations Climate Change Summit, COP27, in November. Host country Egypt wants to take on a leading role by calling time on unfulfilled pledges that have left African countries disproportionately battered by climate change. According to Egypt's Environment Minister, Yasmin Fouad, she says the country should play the role to represent the African continent and its needs clearly. The African continent emits only around 3% of global carbon dioxide emissions, but is disproportionately affected by worsening droughts and floods. Funding to help poorer countries curb their emissions and strengthen their resilience will be a key flashpoint at the 2022 United Nations Climate Summit. And joining us now for more on this is Olumide Idowu, climate change expert. Thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Thank you very much.
So just how important is this upcoming COP27 summit for the African continent?
Yeah, thank you very much for this invitation. And it's very important that a lot of people have started talking about the urgency of what climate change is causing to the people, to the vulnerable, even to the local people. And also noting that no one is left behind. I think the preparation have started and a lot of people have been going for sort of pre-meeting. Like last week, we just had African Climate Week, where some ministers have to come together, and coming week, we're also having another African Ministerial Conference. So my point here is everything is starting in a way whereby everybody is now setting their priority. What is going to be the future for Africa in COP27? What is going to be our agenda moving ahead in COP27? So I think private sector, children and youth, the government themselves, and all other stakeholders are actually ready, talking about what are they going to take to COP27. And also not to forget that we have what we call the African Group of Negotiators, which they are going to be doing very much work on behalf of different focal points from different countries. So to say that COP27 in Egypt is something that we need to start talking about now. We have just a month, some weeks ahead of this conference, and what are the things that Africa need to be looking forward to is what we need to start talking about. And a lot of people have been talking about it, right from Gabon, African Climate Week. By next week, we're going to be in Senegal for the the AMSEM, the Conference of Ministers on Environment. And another one is going on in Egypt, talking about the pre-COP. And so a lot of conversation is going on and focusing on adaptation, focusing on loss and damage, and to increase funding for vulnerable people and people living in a local community. Thank you very much.
All right, then, well said. Climate change expert Olumide Idowu, thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Thank you very much.
Now let's head to Ghana to meet Ashley Anthony, who is the founder of Melanin Gamers. Well, the British Ghanaian Gaming Collective offers a safe haven for players and lovers of video games. Take a look.
Behind a keypad-locked door in Ghana's capital, Accra, hid a neon-lit hall of flickering processors, clicking keyboards, and cheering voices. British Ghanaian gamer Annabelle Ashley Anthony stood and shook the hand of her brother, Adam, who just bested her in a round of Mortal Kombat. The match was among the last of a tournament organized by Melanin Gamers, a collective Ashley Anthony hopes will change the video game landscape forever. After watching her brother Alan get bullied online for the color of his skin, Ashley Anthony made it her mission to build a community where people could play together away from the racism, misogyny and homophobia often associated with online games.
My brother said these words to me that were really profound. He was like, who wins if I stop playing? And those words really stuck with me. Because it was just like, why is it always like, oh, someone's saying something, mute your mic. Do this, do that, do that. Don't stream with a camera on so no one knows. All of these things are things that the victim has to do because of the bully. And I'm like, well, get rid of the bully. The bully is the problem. Why is the victim bending over backwards doing all of these stuff?
According to Esports analytics leader, Ghana is one of the countries leading the way. The West African nation had the continent's second highest per capita gaming population in 2021, with 27% of citizens actively playing. British-born Ashley Anthony says that showing Ghanaians that there are viable profession choices in gaming is as a lot a component of the Melanin Gamers mission as anything.
We want to be represented correctly, authentically, in various different games, both in the games themselves and the developer side too. So those are one of the things that we really do. We interview developers of color and say, well, they're making these kind of games, so it's knowing about them. And it's also telling the youth that this is an industry that is worth getting into now. And it's also convincing the parents because, well, I don't know about your parents, but Ghanaian parents, gaming and industry, no, the conversation is shut down before it can even get anywhere. They don't understand that gaming can make money. They don't understand like the industry and stuff like that. So it's also about education too, and about exposing people to the different career paths and options that's available.
One Melanin Gamers member doing just that is Ghanaian-Nigerian streamer Rita Lucia Henry Andor. She makes around $100 per month streaming and commentating on video games from her studio in one of Arena 233's back rooms and aims to make it her full-time job by the end of the year. Last month, Henry Andor hosted her first self-organized tournament with Melanin Gamers members participating both physically in Ghana and virtually from around the world.
It's a safe space for legit anybody, white, black, male, female, trans, non-binary, whatever you are, we will accept you because we're a couple of accepting people who are finding more accepting people. I'm not trying to add any bigots to my stream or any bigots to my community. And if I do find them, I find my way to weed them out. You can usually tell the way they talk in the chat, the way they interact with you, you're like, kind of sus, you gotta go. So yeah, I do try and teach them. I'll try and educate you like, hey, what you're saying is wrong. But if you're so adamant in your own belief, I can't get into your brain and change it for you. I just have to move you out of my space because the space is for me and my people. And if my own people don't feel safe in there and I don't feel safe in there, then what am I even doing my time?
Since the launch of Melanin Gamers, they have accrued more than 4,000 members worldwide, mostly in the United Kingdom, United States and Ghana.
And that's the program today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Teniola Oyetayo.